Council Vice President Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Slater, for being here today. I, too, have several questions. I'm going to try my best not to repeat what the other council members have already talked about, but I have to tell you, to start off with, it is truly very disheartening to hear when we heard a significant, clear promise from both the governor and from you at the road show, where you said that no one's home was going to be taken and no business would be taken, now we're using terms like minimizing to the extent feasible. We're using terms like this would be preferable. Candidly, Mr. Secretary, wouldn't you do that on any project? Wouldn't you say that you're going to minimize any home and any business on any project? And that's not what you said here.
I believe that 495 and 270 are special projects that will receive an incredible amount of effort to prevent going beyond the footprint that we establish from the record of decision. And even beyond that, we will be doing everything we can to encourage, incentivize the proposers to, again, accommodate our desire. In the end, we need to have a system improved, and we need projects to be delivered. I can tell you that this is a level of concentration on our part that goes beyond anything that we would typically do. A typical project for all manner of application, if it impacts homes, we would try to negotiate with the homeowner and to acquire that home if it was deemed necessary. For us, we're saying our priority number one is to avoid the home, and that is not typical.
Well, there again, I understand your point about that you need, in Greenbelt, you might need some flexibility. I have many friends in Greenbelt, but we're concerned about Montgomery County and especially 270 for my district, and of course 495 affects many other people as well. So I understand your answer. I don't like your answer, but I understand your answer, and we're going to continue to work with you as best we can to come up with other solutions. For the whole idea of mass transit, the fact that mass transit is not in these discussions at this point, we've individually seen suggestions about monorail, and you know, when I first thought of it, and I know many of my other colleagues thought the same thing, that you fear monorail, you know, this is just a Disney event, but it wasn't. It was an impressive presentation, and it goes from Frederick to Councilmember Rice's thoughts, all the way down to the Red Line, Shady Grove Red Line, et cetera, and then parts over to what would be where the CCT, Carter City's Transitway line could be. And this isn't even involved in this. Have you had any discussions at all about the possibility of monorail?
So we, to state that we have not considered transit within this program, I think totally ignores the fact that the Purple Line is under construction, and that the Purple Line
but that's
is
not on
a
270, in all fairness.
Well, that's not 270, but I mean, we have had and are making a significant investment in transit, as well as the additional funds that are going to WMATA. So the approach that we are taking, I believe, has a very heavy emphasis on transit. However, and I do want to answer your question about monorail. I've not seen a presentation on the proposal for monorail. However, I have responded that we are open to any transportation that can pay for itself and be a no net cost to the state.
Well, this one, what we saw, the presentation, there again, it was a presentation, but it was, what I saw individually was a P3, And I have to tell you, I was extremely impressed. I didn't know walking into it that I thought that I would be extremely impressed, but I was. So I encourage you and your team to please see the studies on monorail. You know,
Who is that? Could you tell me who it is that's...
We'll send you the information.
Would you please?
so-
Yes, because
yeah,
they've not approached me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, believe me, we're more than happy to
Okay.
get you there. You use the term shockingly innovative approaches. Why don't you use the term shockingly innovative approaches that stays within the existing right-of-way? Why don't you use those terms? Why don't we say that in Montgomery County on 270, and there again, and 495 as well, but I'm particularly concerned about 270 as it comes through my district. Why we would continue, the people that live next to 270, they cannot fix up their homes. They don't know whether they can sell their homes. You have put them in a terrible position. From a business standpoint, a business as well. We a couple weeks ago, there was a major discussion, a major gathering of people who one after the other said, look, we need to have answers, and we thought we had them. We thought when the governor and you said that about the going to stay within the existing right-of-way, and now we're using terms that says we're going to try our best, but you're not being fair to the people who are being directly affected by it, and that in itself should be it is a concern to me, and I know it's a concern to you personally, but I believe it should be a concern for the department as well. We need to get people to a place where they can feel comfortable in their own homes and in their own neighborhoods.
The sooner we can get through the NEPA process, I think that will be the first step in being able to give people comfort in what it is we are looking at. And then secondly, once we receive proposals back from concessionaires, that would be, in essence, that's when we will know. Right now, we are looking at proposals to be received next, what? Summer? Next summer.
Next summer being
2020.
2020 something.
So we are going through this process. We're doing it thoroughly, but we're also doing it as quickly as we can for a number of reasons. We keep looking at 2025, and we keep seeing what the region is looking at, and therefore we know we need to be aggressive in going through the steps that we have to do. And everything I've seen, we are doing a good job of getting through these steps. So by summer, roughly just over a year from now, we should be able to provide that comfort to those people. Everything I have seen from our estimates on 270, again, on 270, I don't see any areas in there that we would have to take any homes or businesses.
Another constituent sent me an email about the major gas pipeline that goes through and goes, I guess, under 270, that backs up to the retaining wall at I-270. I'm assuming that in your engineering and whatnot, that you're aware of that, but they're extremely concerned, as they should be, about that major pipeline, and that the homes in that area were built in around the 1970s in some cases, and that they would have been built to the code at that time, and of course that, it certainly wouldn't have been built to a code that was going to withstand an earthquake. And now the traffic and whatnot with the truck traffic and other traffic, 270, there's certainly a vibration that takes place there. And can you give any sort of an answer on whether or not you were taking all of that into consideration? And I know there's retaining walls there, but does the retaining wall take care of those additional vibrations, et cetera?
Okay. I don't know the specifics of the retaining wall that you're referring to.
Yep.
But we do know that throughout this entire corridor, there are utilities of all sorts. There is a WSSC line underneath 495 that's 84 inches. Huge. So we know that utilities are a factor throughout the corridor and will have to be addressed in some way, whether that means lowering them, rerouting, or whatever that might be.
And in that same, while you're looking, please, there's a water pond, where the bridge, which allows Route 28 to cross over 270, and to the entrance ramp on I-270 South. And it's part of the water management system. And there's a creek and other waterways there that goes into Wooten Mills Park. And you need to please double check to make certain that nothing would flood and all of those. I know that your engineers would do this, but this is extremely, obviously it's a concern of all of us, but it certainly is a concern of the property owners and the people that live there. You said that you're planning to do the environmental study of 270 south of 370 in phase one and postpone 270 from 370 north to Frederick, as Councilmember Rice was talking about. But there again, that biggest bottleneck is where 270 narrows north of Gaithersburg. And there again, Gaithersburg is part of my district as well. It's a different kind of concern from there up. I mean, there's different lanes, numbers of lanes that are there, and certainly the city government there, as it goes through Gaithersburg, is going to be working with you, I know, and continue to work with you. But adding more lanes in the southern corridor first is only going to increase the bottleneck going north. And so I have to agree with and I agree with him fairly often, but my good friend and Councilmember Rice, that to me that makes little sense. So I think you should at least re-examine that, please.
I need to re-emphasize that the time between 2A and 3A, and even let's go 1 to 2A, right, is going to be they're going to succeed each other quickly. The delaying of I-270 north of 370 is again, we are starting here with a notice to proceed in April for the NEPA process going north, and we are undertaking improvements to this entire corridor very aggressively. And so it's, I don't believe that we have an unusual or unnecessary delay in us addressing 270 north of 370.
And because I know all of my colleagues have many other questions, I'm going to have just one last one, and that's historically expanding I-270. I was born in Gaithersburg, so I've seen 270 change its name a couple times, and the widths and the number of lanes change. But in the 80s, 270 was terribly congested. The highway was widened to its current configuration in 1990. And everybody predicted that this was going to take care of congestion until, this was from 1990, until 2010. It really didn't work that way. And however, by 95, traffic was again getting worse, which we all know. By 99, traffic was worse than it had been projected in 2010. By 99, and what evidence do you have now that what you're suggesting is even going to work?
Okay. What you're referring to as well, when you see the traffic that has grown along 270, is that we've seen quite a bit of economic development within that area and north. And so that traffic did not magically appear, right? There's a reason that traffic was generated. So being priced managed lane is how we will manage the lanes that are there and ensure that they offer an option to people for a relatively free-flowing option along 270 and on 495. Absent price managed lane, those lanes would fill up with the continued growth of the region. So it's the magic piece to this is going to be the nature of price managed lanes.
Well, I can say that we hope that we're going to have economic development in Montgomery County like you've never seen before. So I don't know that your suggestions without the monorails, without the other mass transit, and I believe Carter City's transitway should be built. I don't believe it should be built in the configuration that's being suggested today. And I believe that, in fact, I know that the county executive, when he was county council member, was working with me on trying to change that. But I continue to want to work with you directly to make certain that we can have a better life for everyone in Montgomery County, especially coming through that 3rd district. But I can also tell you that we need, in order to work together, we really do need to work together and listen to each other. I've been to the listening sessions, and candidly, I was not impressed. I wanted to be impressed, but I wasn't. I felt that we came away with very few answers and a whole lot of, well, we'll get back to you. So, and we haven't gotten back, and nothing's been gotten back in many cases, not in all cases. So I thank you for being here. I know this is not the most pleasant day you've ever had, but candidly, you probably shouldn't have a pleasant day in Montgomery County. We have great concerns. Thank you very much.